The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Jack Baruzzini. Hi, Jack.
Hey, Dom. How's it going?
Very well, thanks. And Thomas Sanjurjo. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Dom. How's it going?
Very well.
It's going well.
Pretty good. Still. Small talk. It's tough. I'm not good at it either.
It's the quarantine.
Yes.
Oh, man, it's killing me.
It's yes. The not interacting with people on a regular basis. So we always start with lately, for some reason, my tale of woe of the week. And I'm still going to do a jingle. And so this week, actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that went bad but went well. And that's I have a 2015 MacBook Pro Retina that I've had for a long time, and I use it mainly these days. My primary computer is an iMac, but I use the MacBook Pro mainly when I have to be away from the desk for any length of time. And my kids do some work on it. They have some school work on it. So I was about to head off on vacation. That's why you didn't hear us a couple weeks ago. I was away for a week. I got to hide away. And I wanted to make sure I took my laptop with me in case there was anything that came up, needed to be taken care of with work. So I got it out to get ready, and it was dead. I got the blinking question mark over a file folder. That's the one thing you never want to see.
Oh, that's the worst. That's the worst one.
Yes. Even better is the backups weren't working. So apparently, which goes back to always test your backups. That's what I always say.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay because it was, like I said, it wasn't my primary computer, and I didn't have anything on it that's why I didn't check the backups on that one frequently, because that's not the primary computer. But I ended up having to replace that computer with a new one because it wasn't time to get a new one, to get that one fixed before I left, and I kind of needed a new one anyway because that was pretty old. So I got something new. But in the meantime, since we got back, I have fixed that MacBook, replaced the SSD, and the way I did it was frankly more simple than any other hard drive replacement I've ever done in a Mac. The first thing you do when you need to do any kind of repair to Mac is you go to ifixit.com and you look up your computer, and they have guides for everything. I once replaced the LCD screen on a MacBook.
That's awesome.
About 12 years ago. That's when I was, long story, it was about when I was buying my house. That's how I remember when I did it. I bought the screen off of eBay. I mean, that was the hardest repair I've ever done on a computer. But this is straightforward. You unscrew the back. You unscrew this little board, which is the SSD. It's an NVMe drive. That's not really important. And then I had purchased from Otherworld Computing at macsales.com. This was a previous pick of the week. I think Father Corey picked it. Their Aura SSD. I got a 480 gig SSD for $140 or something like that. And you just pull out the bad one, pop in the good one, screw everything back together again, start it up. You have to start it up in network recovery mode because there's no operating system on it, and which the Mac OS is really good at that. It says, "Hey, there's no OS here," and so let's connect to the internet. Where's their internet? It connects. It starts up over the internet with a very bare bones operating system, and then you run the installer. Boom, like that. And then just got, had to do some installation and stuff. And now I've got this computer that now is set up for my kids to use. My son does he has a STM Math website or something that still uses Adobe Flash. I had to install Adobe Flash Player on my computer. In December, I don't know what they're going to do, because in December, Adobe Flash will no longer work. It's going offline, like Adobe has announced. So they better be like programming like crazy to get something else in place to replace it. But he uses that and he likes that, and we use it for some other things. But so that's my tale of woe, but it ended well. So
yeah, that's not too bad. That sounds like how I repurpose all of the laptops that I get.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people are like, it's junk. I don't really need it anymore.
Yes.
And so I'll just bring it home and I'll grab a Linux install and put it on a USB drive and then just shove it in the USB slot. And there we go.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
well, I have a new Linux laptops.
Yeah. I mean, that's the great thing is like these older, and this is actually going to come up again maybe in a little bit. These older laptops can have a second life, doing things that aren't all that heavy lifting. If your kids are just doing Google Classroom or Zoom or whatever, and they're writing papers and they're looking up stuff online and doing messages, it doesn't need like a 5 or 6 year old laptop is probably sufficient. So, but we'll come to that in a minute, because our main topic for this week is most of you, or all of you, all of your parents out there know, school is around the corner, and school in 2020 is unlike anything we've ever seen before.
It's awesome. I'll tell you what, though, I am so proud of the school that I'm at. I'm basically like a tech coach this year. They've moved me out of the classroom, and I'm teaching the teachers how to do all the stuff that they need to do. And we have pushed to the 15 years in the future school. And so we have the little robots that follow the teachers around so that they track the teachers around the room and keep an iPad on them at all times. And we have half and half learners. So half of our learners are in class, half of them are at home. It's awesome. I am like in the dream world of education right now.
Well, did you guys see that short treks that they had earlier this year, where it was in the time frame of Picard with the two girls at the future school, the Federation school, like with all that stuff? I'm like, that's kind of like what school should be like right now, with these see-through screens in front of them and stuff. But well, the big thing for a lot of parents is right now is there's going to be a lot of long distance learning. Some kids are going back to classrooms. Some kids are doing part-time in classrooms. Some kids are doing all remote to start. And a lot of people have decided, I'm just homeschooling my kids now. And, and that brings up all kinds of tech questions. And frankly, as we all know, back in March, when everything shut down and schools shut down, a lot of people were kind of thrown for a loop, like suddenly dropped into the deep end of remote learning and the technology and didn't know what to do. How do I deal with this? So now that we've had some time and we had a little bit of a break over the summer to think about this, a lot of parents are confronted with the question of like, well, how do I make this work better than it did a few months ago? And so I thought we could talk a bit about some of the questions that come up. And some of this is inspired by an article I read by Hiawatha Bray, who's a great technology columnist for the Boston Globe, and is a good, thoughtful mainstream reporter for the Globe on technology. And so he wrote this column talking about how to gear up for remote distance learning this fall. And so I kind of worked off of some of the things he addressed. And so the first question, obviously, is the hardware, like what they're going to actually use. And it really, some of this is determined by what the school says or hands out, but you might also be given a choice of things. And so the first question is computer or tablet? What do you guys think? Is say that the school doesn't have is agnostic on the question. Mm-hmm. What does a parent go for? Jack?
I would say a tablet, honestly. That's going to be the future of computing. So if they're going to start learning how to use computing, I think that's going to be a good way to go. You can always get a keyboard case if you need to type. And something we've been doing with my son actually is he has to trace letters on the screen. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going to be doing anything where you're going to be doing handwriting, a tablet with a pen is going to be better than using a keyboard with like the touch screen on your laptop.
Interesting.
Or with a touchpad on your laptop.
Yeah, I very much agree. Tablet is the way to go. And along with the tablet, remember they're kids. Mm-hmm. So get a case to put the tablet in.
Oh, yeah.
Do not skimp on the case.
All right. I have a different pick this week, but next week I'm going to give you my pick of the week for the iPad case that I got after the kids broke one of our iPads. So which tablet, actually? That's my next question is, do they get an iPad, Amazon Fire, some Lord knows Android or Surface even?
I would say steer away from the Amazon Fire tablets just because their app store is kind of limited. So lots of schools use specific apps that may not be available on the Amazon store. I would recommend the iPad. I think it's like $329
Yes.
on Amazon. Just the standard iPad, not the mini or the Pro, and that's a good price for it. You can get the keyboard case for it, and it also works with the pen.
Right. Yeah, you can be all in keyboard, iPad, and Apple Pencil for like under $500.
Yeah, no, it's that. I think that's the best one. The pen recognition is really good, and Android. If you're not looking to get into using too much technology or all the weird janky things that can happen with Android, I think Apple's probably the best bet. And then after that, I would say a Surface because it's Windows.
And I would go opposite order, but I would say the same thing. Surface I would go for first, and then iPad after that. And the reason I picked Surface is just because Surface is more like a traditional desktop environment. Even though it's a tablet, it still has that more desktop feel. And so if you grab a keyboard and stick a keyboard on it, it's much more like using an actual computer than any experience you're going to get on an iPad.
Right.
Okay. And what if you decide, okay, but we really need a computer? What, Thomas, I can guess you're going to say get a cheap Windows computer or an inexpensive one and throw Linux on it.
I would love to say that, but I know for most parents that is not going to be the reality.
Right.
So, and that's what I'm doing with my kids. I just got a whole bunch of the computers from the school that we're getting rid of, and we're donating them somewhere. And so apparently 8 of them are going to be donated to my house, which is kind of we're homeschooling, and that's what we're doing with them. But if you do want to go that route, there are some easy operating systems. Linux Mint and Linux Ubuntu are two of the flavors of Linux that are really easy to install. They have very much a feel of the traditional kind of Windows style desktop. So if you do want to go that route, awesome. More power to you. If you're a little tech savvy and you want to look around on the internet for the answers, go for it. But no, I would actually go with the Surface Pro versions. Microsoft is making some great tech right now.
I would second that, yeah. The Surface Pros are really nice.
How about Chromebooks?
That's going to depend on if your school is supporting them. Some schools use those and they actually give them out to students, but if they're not, I wouldn't go buy one on my own.
Right.
Windows laptop for about the same price or a little bit more, and it does a lot more.
Right.
And if you're looking for deals, always go for the refurbished.
Yes.
The certified refurbished is the way to buy a computer.
In fact, even with Apple, this is always my recommendation. You go to apple.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, and go click on the button for the refurb and whatever it says refurbished and something, I forget.
Yeah.
Store. Go there and look at this. It's not always the most things, and you're not going to find every single kind of computer they sell or iPad or even iPhone. And all of their stuff is usually there at one point or another. But you're usually going to get a pretty good deal, and they are like brand new when they come out from their refurb, and that you get the warranty of a brand new. So you don't have to worry about it's did someone take it home and dent it or break it somehow, and now I'm going to get this. It's not like an open box from Joe's Computers down on the corner.
Right.
They've gone over it with a fine tooth comb.
Right. The only difference is you don't get the nice packaging.
Right. And yeah, you don't. I mean, which is fine. That usually goes right in the trash afterward anyway. But and in fact, in some ways, I think the refurb is a little better than the factory, straight from the factory, because the refurb has been gone over.
Right.
Like they brought it in and they went over it individually, as opposed to just coming off the line. So I sometimes think those are even better. If you want something even a little less expensive, you can try, like for Mac stuff, you could try, and for the other stuff too, for that matter. Best Buy sometimes has some deals on refurbished, so you can look at them. But if I were going to get a Mac for a kid, I don't know that I would at this level. Whether if you really want to stay in the Apple ecosystem, I'd get an iPad. But if I thought, they're high school and they really need a laptop, and I'm a Mac guy, one of the MacBook Airs under $1,000, brand new.
I would say Acer is a really good budget computer brand that makes reliable hardware.
Yeah.
That's
So if you're going to stick with Windows, I would say look at those.
one thing to consider when you're getting a laptop is
Yep.
the size, though, too. So make sure you pay attention to the dimensions. And that's really the biggest reason I recommend the Surface, is because it has the dimensions of the Macs, but it's a Windows machine, and you can get them pretty cheap.
So in other words, not too big, you mean?
Right.
Yeah,
Right. You don't want
for
something
kids.
that's too large.
Yeah, because the kids are gonna have to sometimes eventually tote this around when they are able to leave their homes and go to
Right.
school. That's a good point. If you're going Windows 10, right?
That's
Make sure-
the
Absolutely.
only option at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
You can't do anything else.
If you
Yeah.
if you're buying a used laptop, say some guy on Facebook Marketplace is selling a used laptop. Do you have any advice for someone on that?
I would say completely wipe it first.
Yes.
Okay,
Make sure
do
it's-
not.
Yeah, don't just run it out of the box.
But it's got like all the Adobe Photoshop on it and all the games that I'm giving you
No,
for
it
free.
doesn't. Yeah, no, it doesn't.
I would say if you're going to be getting an older laptop, Linux is going to be a better option to begin with
Yes.
Right.
because it's going to run cleaner anyways.
Yeah, and the great thing about a Linux install at that point is you can set it up on a bootable USB, and you plug it in before you even turn the laptop on, and
Right.
it just wipes the whole thing, starts fresh.
Okay.
And
'Cause-
that's a good way to do it.
And you want to start fresh because you don't want any viruses, any malware, any bootloaders, any junk that could be still sitting on someone else's computer that they could take you for a ride.
I also think Linux for kids starting out is actually a good way to get them into computing. That's actually how I got into computing. But I was actually homeschooled, and I had an old laptop that had Windows ME on it, and it was horrible. So I installed Ubuntu on it. This is probably 15 years ago now, and that worked way better. And by doing that, I was able to figure out how to actually use a computer.
Right.
That's
So I
great.
think that's a good way to get started in computing.
That's true. And great skills to have. Those tech skills are
Right.
marketable, but also useful, frankly,
Yeah,
in life. Not just marketable. And budget on that on a computer, like say, what would you think? 500? Someone should budget.
Say 400 to 500 would be
Yeah.
a good budget.
Now, Thomas, I kind of addressed it to you just because I know you have a bunch of kids, and we're in similar boats. How many computers should we expect to have? Should it be 1-to-1?
Ideally, yes. And the reason I say that is because it becomes an issue with the kids when, oh, I need to get on to do this, oh, I need to get on to do that, or they have a meeting at the same time. And a lot of it, again, depends on how your school is running things. So if your school is going completely asynchronous and you can set up time for your kids to work on things as they need to, then maybe only one computer is going to be okay, or one device is going to be okay. But really, you need to go more 1-to-1. And I'll tell you honestly, I brought home 3 laptops for my kids today from the set that we were getting rid of, and my wife's like, only 3? Why only 3? You need to get some more. Go back and grab some more if you can. So I'm going to go back and get 3 more tomorrow because she would like to be 1-to-1 on the computers.
Okay.
I would say if you can find deals on old Dell business laptops like the Dell Inspirons, those things are workhorses. They're really durable. So if you can get one of those for cheap, that's always a good option too.
Interesting.
That is true.
Yeah, in my house, so I've got 5 kids. My oldest is high school now. She's just starting. She's not technically, she's homeschooled. They're all homeschooled, but she's 14, so she's starting high school level work. She has a Chromebook that I got for free as a review unit a few years ago that got to keep. So that's what she uses. She's also got an iPhone that doesn't have service that just she uses for music and whatever. But she's got a Chromebook, and that's what she uses. My next daughter is 12. She's got an iPad, my old iPad Pro that I passed down to her, and then the next one has a newer, like the one of the 329 iPads, and then we have like a stack of probably 6 inches high of old iPad 2s and stuff of that vintage that that Pat, my mother-in-law, heads off to us when her clients get rid of them. So
nice.
And
that's the best way to get them, man.
Yeah. yes, and that's why this laptop that I just fixed is going to be so important, because my son who's using that iPad who's what's he now? 11. He needs more of a computer now, because the math program he uses is not available on iPad. It's Adobe Flash for some crazy reason. Can you tell I'm a little bitter? So what about, so these days kids need, if they're doing Zooms and Google Classroom and that sort of stuff, they need webcam and headsets, microphone maybe. What do they need in that realm? So some of these computers will come with webcams. A lot don't though, right?
I would say it's most laptops you're going to buy now are going to have a webcam built in. It's really rare that you find one that doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they've got a webcam, that's good. If they don't have a webcam, what do you have a recommendation? I mean,
it's kind of a crapshoot
Yeah.
on the webcams. I would say that really the thing, and it's interesting too, because the thing that you're looking for in a good webcam is just an ease of use factor and a good microphone, because that's where most of your sound is going to come from, because a lot of people are not investing in good headphones or in good microphones.
right.
So you want something that's going to be able to kind of be a both and solution. That being said, they're not cheap and they're very hard to find right now,
Right.
which is a really interesting problem.
Yeah.
I'd say if you need to find something that you got to set up separately from the laptop itself, you should worry about the microphone and just make sure you get a laptop that has the webcam built in, because the image, as long as they can see you, it doesn't matter if it's super crisp, but the audio is going to be more important.
That's true. That's true. So now I can talk about microphones and headsets and that sort of thing from a podcaster's perspective, which is headsets. While they're fine for gaming, and your kid will probably get away with it in a classroom setting with a headset, but they are kind of noisy. You know, there's a lot of like rustling in there because they're right there. But I wouldn't spend a ton of money on a microphone, like a podcast quality microphone.
No, you don't need that.
Invest in like a $20 set of headphones that have a microphone built into them.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
because most of the time they're going to be muted.
Right.
On the call, they're going to be muted.
Yeah.
They're going to unmute to ask a question, to provide an answer, and then they're going to mute again.
Yes.
So you don't want to waste money on
and
sound.
if you get a separate desk microphone, it's going to be hard enough getting the kids to sit still in front of the laptop in the first place, so it's not going to pick them up well to
Right.
begin with.
And there's all this other stuff that you got to deal with in addition.
Right.
Right. Not to mention, if you're running a tablet, there really is not much of an option to plug in a desktop microphone.
Right. That's right. And they tend to be expensive for those sorts of tablet, especially iPad microphones and those sorts of things.
Right.
Printer? What do you say? Like, do families who got kids at home doing schoolwork, do they need a printer?
Avoid it like the plague if you can.
Yeah, it's a nice to have, but if you got one at work that you're allowed to print random things off of, I would say just stick with that. That's what I do. But if not, you can buy a cheap one from Best Buy, just whatever's cheap, because all printers suck.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't think that paying more money means you get a better printer. It
No.
does
Right.
not. It
No,
just doesn't.
It doesn't. They're essentially disposable. I mean, I hate to say
Right.
it, but they're essentially disposable. One thing I would, from the article I mentioned before by Hiawatha Bray, that I would second is, if you have to buy a printer, the HP printers that do the subscription ink are a pretty good deal, because I don't print a lot. So, but if with a subscription, if you print it all, and there's a way to figure out how many pages a month make it worthwhile, but it's a lot cheaper than buying ink, and it just shows up. The printer is on the internet, and then once you get low, it says, hey, send them more ink, and more ink just shows up in the mail, as opposed to, it's 11 o'clock at night and you have a paper due in the morning and then we don't have any ink and I've got to go find the 24-hour place to buy the ink for this printer. No, you're not going to have to do that. One of the things, though, they mentioned the EcoTank ones from Epson. I had an EcoTank, and this is supposed to be more convenient because they have these big tanks and you pour from a bottle the ink into this reservoir. Oh, was that messy?
No.
Sounds like a disaster.
No. That sounds awful.
Yeah.
That sounds like I do not want to do that.
Well, because the bottle that has been opened is now half full, needs to be somewhere. And
Right.
the cap, at least the ones that they had when I had it, the caps were not the best caps in the world, let's just say. So, yeah, I ended up like, hey, anybody want this? I gave it away to someone in my town, on the town Facebook group. Like, anybody want a printer? Here you
so
go.
you cursed someone with it, huh?
Yes. I was paying it backward.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So let's talk a little about the internet service. All right. You've got the computer. Now you got to be connected to the internet. how much speed or bandwidth, we use those interchangeably, but how much should people get? 10 gigabit, 10, what is it we need out there?
I would say don't go for less than a gig.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you can get like 100 gigs, that's good, but
100 megabit.
Don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. It's been interesting to see that Comcast and Verizon, which are two of the big ones out there, there are others out there. It all depends on who's in your neighborhood, which ISPs are there. But like Comcast was doing some low cost ones, some basic connection packages like 25 megabit for $10 a month. Verizon had one that was $20 a month for a 200 megabit connection, but it was based on income. If you didn't have, they had to do some income qualification.
Gotcha.
But so you think 100 is the minimum, and frankly, especially if you've got more than one kid online at a time, that's probably not a bad idea.
That's what's going to determine it. Yeah, how many people are going to be online at once.
Right. And also, I'm going to say more important than the amount of bandwidth you have from your ISP is what kind of Wi-Fi access point you have.
Yes.
And it's a really important thing to think about that first off. And then also, where are your kids going to be sitting when they're doing their work? Make sure that the access point is in that room. And if that means that when you get the person to come out to install, that you have them put a jack in the wall in that room, you want to go ahead and do that.
Right. So which is better? A lot of these, like the ISPs, the modem that they give you is also a Wi-Fi router. Is that acceptable? Work?
I would say if at all possible, you're going to want to buy your own modem and your own router because it's going to be easier to manage. You're going to get more options. It's going to be quicker. You're not going to get all that bloatware that they give you with their built-in all-in-one modems. And those things, just in my experience, don't work that well. But on the flip side, it's going to depend on how much time do you want to spend troubleshooting your modem and your router and your kids' computers and the connection to the school. Like, you got to kind of pick your battles at that point.
Yep.
Right. So I have an Eero, which is a mesh Wi-Fi system, which means that there's a base station, frankly, about 6 feet behind me. And then there are repeaters, essentially, at several places in my house. I don't have a very large house, so I get 2 that cover my whole house. And once I put that in, it's been a breeze to, like, I don't have any more Wi-Fi problems with, dead spots in my house. I used to, have my phone when I go to bed, my bedroom's on the other side of the house. My phone would not connect to the internet sometimes, like do late night updates. Nope. But now I have no problems in that vein. And it was nice and easy, but that tends to be a little bit more of an expensive of a solution. Could you think of like a standalone router that you would recommend, like one Wi-Fi router that would be sort of, because it used to be the Linksys.
Linksys was the way to go.
Was the one.
It's not so much that anymore. I mean, Linksys is still pretty good. Linksys is not. They still make pretty good equipment, but there are other options out there that are pretty good.
Linksys is good. Belkin is also pretty decent.
Another good one,
yeah. Was it Netgear? What about Netgear? How is that these days?
Are they even still around? I haven't seen Netgear stuff in a while, honestly.
So the TP-Link Archer is expensive, but it's a good one. It's a little bit more expensive. I've heard good things about the Synology routers, but I have to back up and say I tend to pay attention to the higher technology and more expensive ones, so I'm not necessarily the best on that.
I would say if you want a good cheap one, the Linksys N750, it's actually what I have right now. I've had it for probably 2 years now, and it works totally fine. It covers my whole house.
Okay.
Also, though, if you can get a newer router right now, they're updating the wireless LAN coding, and it's got a whole new set of things that's going into it that's going to make it faster and more acceptable to multiple users and things like that. So if you are going to buy one, it's actually a good time to buy a new one rather than an older one.
Right.
And check the code and make sure that it's the newest wireless access code.
I think Wi-Fi 6 is the new new standard. Yeah, right. We're no longer doing 802.11 whatever
Right.
baloney. Now they just nice and simple Wi-Fi 6. Yeah, look for Wi-Fi 6 on the router, whatever it is you get. Go to thewirecutter.com, thewirecutter.com, and search for router there. They'll have a listing of their picks for routers. That's probably a good place to at least start to see what the differences are. All right, so we've talked about Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi, not Ethernet. Should we run cables?
You're going to have so much trouble finding any computers that connect to cables that kids are going to be using.
Okay.
Yeah.
iPads are not.
Don't even have those anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about software that kids might use. Again, some of this, if your school system's got something, they might have something like the Google Classroom or the Google Suite. They'll probably tell you, oh, we're using Zoom or Google Meet or Google Classroom for the meetings, or Moodle, which is another one that's out there. But one of the things that's important is time management for kids. Do you guys have any recommendations in the software realm for the sort of thing that would be the first place to go for kids?
I don't actually. With mine, I have them set up timers. I make it a priority for them to set a timer. And if I ever walk by them and ask, hey, how long have you been on? And they can't immediately flip over to tell me what their time is, they're off.
Okay.
I would also say make sure wherever they're working, you got their screens visible to where you can see. You don't have them like off in a room where the screen's facing the wall. You want to make sure you can see what they're actually doing.
Yes. Monitor what they're doing. Make sure they're working, not playing, never mind whatever else they could be doing online. I have a friend whose son is spending, she works in a hospital. Her son is at her mother's during the day doing his school from home. They're doing remote school. And she found out that he's been spending 8 hours a day playing Minecraft instead of doing his work because grandma was trusting that he was doing what he was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Something else you can do is make sure you set up an admin account on the computers and then set up accounts for the kids and basically lock down everything else so they can't install things on their own.
Right.
And if you want to get really into it, you can even set up rules on your firewall that'll block YouTube and different things like that so they're not just goofing off.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on a Mac or iOS, you can use screen time to limit their time in certain kinds of apps. You can limit it by specific app or by category. You can say all game apps, not between these hours and only for this amount of time. One of the things I did was I set up we have an iPad that the kids use for games. And I set up a shortcut in iOS shortcuts that when they launch one of these games, it starts a timer in this app called Visual Timer. It checks to see if there's a timer already running. And if it's not already running, it starts a 20-minute timer. And when the time's up, it also puts something in reminders on my iOS account and my wife's iOS account. So when their time is up, I get a notification, my wife gets a notification, and they get a notification that their time is up. And it's because we give them 20-minute blocks, basically. And so I think I put that on my blog. If I've already put it on my blog, I'll put a link to it in the show notes so that if you can see how I ended up doing that. But use the tools that are out there. You don't have to get that complex. But there are tools out there to help you manage what your kids are doing on their devices and make sure they're using them correctly.
Yeah. And remember, don't feel bad about it because you are making habits for them that are good. Even if they're doing schoolwork, they really don't need to be sitting in front of a computer for more than an hour at a time.
Yes.
They need a brain break. They need to stand up and step away.
That's the big thing of, with my kids who are homeschooled is they spend an hour or so in the morning sitting down doing work. They do a couple hours in the afternoon where my wife does read alouds in history, science, and literature. And other than that, like they're sort of free to do play and read and what have you. It doesn't have to take forever, and so don't buy the lie that they have to sit in front of a computer for 8 hours a day. They're not a drone office worker like some of us.
You're organizing your time so that they're ideally spending as little time in front of a screen as possible.
Yes. Yeah. So now some people, like we've kind of been focusing a little bit on kids remote learning, but a lot of people do homeschooling or homeschooling for the first time, and I get a lot of questions. And this isn't really the place to talk about homeschooling in general, but a couple of things I want to mention that for technology related. Check out Homeschool Connections. That is a nice program that's out there. It's available where they have a teacher who connects with kids over Moodle, I think is the platform they use, which is it's sort of like Zoom, and they have classes. My daughter has taken a bird watching class. She's taken a Shakespeare class. She just recently did a class on C.S. Lewis and Tolkien with Joseph Pierce, who's a great world-renowned Tolkien scholar and Lewis scholar. It's really, and so you can do live classes. They also have recorded classes, which then you can progress through at your own pace. Those are good. And check out, whether your kids are in regular school or homeschool, check out Khan Academy, especially for math. It's been a great thing for my daughter. She had so much trouble in math. 2 years ago, she was like 3 grade levels behind. And every day we started doing math here, sitting next to me at my desk for an hour every morning on Khan Academy. And she has now caught up to grade level. She's ready. She's doing high school math now. It's been just a great app. We use the iPad app with the Apple Pencil, and has worked great for her. So those are a couple of things I would recommend from a homeschooling perspective. Anything else on this?
Let's just say you can take advantage of Google Docs. It's a good place to organize everything.
Oh yes, yep, yes. That's one thing my wife has started doing with my daughter is she has a weekly checklist of things to get done, and so there's a shared Google Doc for every week that has her what she needs to get done this week and check it off as she completes it. Shared Google Docs are a great tool for that. Thomas, anything left on that?
No, I think we've covered it pretty well. I would say about homeschooling, if you are a parent who has been considering it and you still have time to consider whether or not you want to do it, and you're gauging your experience in the spring as the marker for whether or not you want to do it, don't, okay? Because homeschooling is not what we were doing in the spring. That was crisis schooling. It is not anything like homeschooling at all.
That's right. Homeschooling, yeah. A lot of homeschoolers were watching with horror at what people kept calling it homeschooling. They're like, that is not what our life is like. That is not how it works.
Our hair is on fire for much different reason.
Exactly. A wholly different experience. So, good. All right. So, if you have any questions for us on any of this topic of tech for school in 2020, send in your messages to technology@sqpn.com, and we'd be glad to address any of your questions in this area as much as we can. All right. So let's move on. Talk about some headlines this week. First headline is an interesting one from Google. Android 11 will take away the camera picker from your Android phones. So until now, if you have an Android phone, you could install a third-party camera app, so an app that takes photos, and you could have it be the one, like if you're in, say, Instagram or Facebook, and you wanted to take a picture and post it on the service, you'd press the camera button, and then would let you choose which camera to use, whether the built-in one or a third-party one. That's going away. And Google says it's a security and privacy issue. What do you guys think of this? This was one of those defining factors. Like people said, you can't do this on iOS, and now they're not going to be able to on Android either. What do you think of this?
I would say it's frustrating from a choices perspective. One of the nice things about Android was that you're able to do that, but in all practicality, every time I would use a third-party camera app on Android, I never ended up using them for more than a few tries anyway. So I don't know how much this really matters, but
oh, it matters a lot. Oh my gosh. You hear people wax poetic about their camera. And I'll tell you, it's really interesting because sometimes you'll get an app that just interacts with the camera in the wrong way. And it flips the camera, for example. And you suddenly realize that you have an eye that droops. And you've never realized that before because the camera's always looking at you the right way. And now all of a sudden it's flipped around. And you're like, why do I look like that? That is so bizarre. So it annoys me. I'll say it annoys me more than probably it should, because I just used the default camera. But I liked the fact that you could pick a different camera if you wanted to.
It's just the idea.
Yeah, it's just the idea of like saying, okay, well, no, we're locking it down. And their reasoning behind it, I understand, but there are ways to handle it that they could, provide more of when you're downloading these apps, they could provide more of the, okay, here's a warning of all the things that are going to happen in this app. Oh, and this is also a picture app. So remember, it will geotag your photos. And there's nothing we can do about that.
I think this just shows the bigger problem with the Android App Store, how many unsecure things are on there and how many loopholes they have. Like, if they would just clean up what apps they were allowing on there, and also giving you more options of here's what, like you were saying, everything that it's going to access. Like, at a certain point, if you want a more open system, you're going to take those risks.
If only it was like a walled garden. I'm just kidding. Well, and that's the thing, as I said, as you referenced, the reasoning that Google gave is that the camera apps can grab geotag or EXIF data, and that data can then be used in ways that you don't want them to, because you've given it the keys to the kingdom essentially, and it's got unfettered access to that location data and can harvest it. And frankly, there have been several companies in recent years caught harvesting your location data, tracking you everywhere you went. What was the movie? Ticket app. Remember that one, the really bad one that like you the subscription for $10 a month, you go to all the movies you wanted. I totally forgot.
Oh yeah.
Movie Link?
I remember which one you're talking about. I think it's something like that.
Yeah, I totally forgot about
you were
them
talking about.
Yeah,
they just kept track of everything that you were watching.
Well, yes. Well, then it kept track of everywhere you went. It was like tracking your location everywhere and selling that information. So I get that, but like you said, there are ways to lock that down that don't necessarily require taking away the functionality completely. But yeah, I can see it. I guess. I mean, this is one of those things where Apple goes, see, and you gotta kind of go, I guess.
Yeah,
I feel like Google is trying to make Android more of a vertical system with each new release.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, much more tighter control of it.
Do it. I hope they both do it, and then I hope someone actually finally releases a Linux phone. That's what I'm hoping for right there.
There was that Ubuntu one years ago that never took off.
It fell flat. It was so sad, but it was mostly because they just couldn't navigate the phone part of the environment. They had the hardware was fine. It was just trying to get on any of the major networks and figure out how to work with them and their coding of things. And yeah,
that's the big question with all of these. One day. All right, so let's talk about another headline. Google, speaking of Google, must be the Google week. Google has rolled out some new features for folks, especially out west, who are affected by the wildfires. Thankfully, those of us out east do not have to contend with the wildfires this year. We just have to have the dumpster fire of 2020, but and hurricanes. So, but they've got this new feature that if you search Google for information on like they name the fires now, like the Camptown fire or whatever. If you search Google for that, it will pop up additional information about the fire. A map of the fire, and if you are giving it location data, especially if you're searching from your phone, it will even tell you where you are in relation to the fire. And if you do a map search, it will route you around the area of the fire and that sort of stuff. Did you guys check this out? And what do you think of the features that they're rolling out? I
think it's taking the best of their technology and putting it to good use. Like, that's the kind of thing I want a map to do.
Right. I'm trying to think of like other ways that, like, besides like wildfires, ways it could be used. I mean, even in more mundane things like like up here in the Northeast, a blizzard or something like that, it could be used for routing people around and closed roads and that sort of thing, I guess.
I think tornadoes move too fast for it to be of any use to me.
Yeah. Well, but okay, so I'll give you this is my sideways comment of the evening right here. I want to know where the Waffle Houses are closed around me, because apparently, and there was an article not too long ago, especially after Hurricane Katrina. Apparently, Waffle House's emergency response system is like the pinnacle, so much so that many other organizations that respond to emergencies look at the Waffle House and see whether or not it's closed. And if it's closed, they know that that's where they need to be.
Yeah, if Waffle House is closed, it's where you don't need to be.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Send in the Cajun Navy. And then the last headline I want to talk about this week is if you remember the attack that hit Twitter about a month ago, the bunch of teenagers hacked. They basically socially engineered some Twitter and some Twitter employees that gave them access to internal tools from the company that let them hijack very prominent Twitter accounts and then use them for Bitcoin scams, which just is so teen hacker script kiddie thing to do. But apparently the techniques that are being used there are well beyond Twitter, and a lot of companies are having to contend with what they're calling phone spear phishing, which is basically calling the phone directory of a company, especially if you could try to get anyone in their IT or sysadmin departments, and finding someone who's I'll just say dumb enough to fall for whatever scam you're trying to tell them, that they give you access to something that you shouldn't have. And it's become a problem, actually. And some companies are having to have these huge training sessions for people like, don't just give out passwords over the phone to people. What did you guys think of this article?
I think really all you can do is double down on training people, because no amount of security is going to help you if people are giving out their login information.
People are always your weakest link. Always your weakest link in security.
The meat bags are the problem.
Also, this brings up an interesting problem, though, with modern security, and that is that you have these companies that are monolithic organizations that just kind of start glomming on all of these other things. Like, why is Microsoft looking at buying TikTok? What logical sense does that make, except in this like massive corporation swallowing everything world? And the reason this is a problem is because, I can tell you how they're doing the spear phishing stuff, is they're calling somebody in the directory. They're saying, oh, I work at X added company or annexed company, and I need access to this thing, and you haven't given me admin rights to it yet, so I need you to elevate my rights. Here's my email address, And I know they have a plan for how to do that, and it really is just relying on people trying to help out and not knowing what the boundaries of their organization are anymore.
I would say my experience with most large organizations, mostly nonprofits, but large organizations, is their security is extremely poor. Like the password security, it's security theater. It's like all smoke and mirrors. You have to change your password every 60 days. But you can't use more than a 6-digit password or something. You know what I mean? It's like these crazy rules that, on the one hand, it's supposed to be secure. On the other hand, it's for our convenience that we don't enforce these stronger rules. And so, yeah, I agree. Like a lot of these companies, it's security through obscurity. There's security through hope and wishes.
Yeah. I would say at this point, if you're not using two-factor authentication, then it doesn't matter what you're doing.
Right.
And people write down their passwords. They're easy to hack if you hit them hard enough.
And a big problem is the two-factor that uses text messaging, because the hackers, what they do is they social engineer a SIM swap, which means getting the phone company to move your phone number, basically port your number to a different phone, a different SIM. And so that when the two-factor code gets texted, it shows up on their phone. And so they're in anyway. So it's got to be true two-factor so that it's on a separate app, not a texting.
Separate app or like a YubiKey or something like that.
Definitely. Yeah. So the big thing for our listeners is don't remember the very basic security thing is never give out your password over the phone to anyone ever, ever, ever.
For any reason. Never give your password out. There's no reason for you. If you need to reset your password, reset your password.
Right. Yeah. Even if you've called the company and you say, I've dialed 1-800-Microsoft and I know it's them. And if the guy on the other end asks for your password, tell him no, just reset it if you need to. Like, no, don't give your password to people. That's the first rule. And, don't just trust someone on the phone because they sound trustworthy. That's the big thing.
And I'll promise you, any IT person worth their salt is not going to want to know your password, because if they don't know your password, when things get done in your name, nobody can come back and say, well, you knew my password, so you could have done it. No, I don't want to know anyone's password. None.
The one thing you don't want as an IT person is anybody's information.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. All right. So those are our headlines, and some good advice there on that. So let's move on to our picks of the week. Thomas, let's go with your pick of the week first.
All right. So my pick of the week is one that's kind of it's different from what I normally do. I have recommended Dwarf Fortress before because it's a really interesting game. But this game is a visual novel. It's called Tacoma, and it's on Steam. It is a game about you are an AI retrieval specialist who has been sent on a mission to an abandoned space station to retrieve the AI core and bring it back to the corporation that owns it. And the game has no violence. It has no action sequences, really. It's a very laid back game where you follow the happenings of things that have been recorded by the AI as you're going through searching for the ways to unlock all the pieces that you need to get to the AI. And so you go in and you start seeing augmented reality recordings of things that happen on the station. And the mystery that unfolds in the game is absolutely amazing. And the reason I recommend it is because for the price of a movie, roughly, it's about $20 to get the game, you get a 4-hour experience that is a fantastic story, absolutely amazing story. It would not work as a movie. It would not work as a book. It is exactly what it needs to be. And in my opinion, it's probably one of the most perfect video games that I've played.
Wow.
Because it does all of the right things. And again, like I said, no violence, no real action points to it, but it tells a story. It has you involved. You can explore as much as you want. So you don't necessarily have to find out everything about these people's lives, but you want to, because you're moving through and learning about them. And you're like, wow, how can I find out something more about him? Oh, he went to this college. Oh, okay. How interesting. Oh, he's got a son that did this. Wait, is he the one that did the thing that caused everybody to have the problem? And so you start wanting to discover the mystery. And there's nothing that tells you have to. You just end up wanting to do it.
Wow. Cool.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
That does sound fun.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic game.
I'll have to check it out. Thank you. Jack, what's your pick this week?
My pick is just more of a general recommendation with kids stuck at home in quarantine, even if you're doing homeschooling or if you're doing part-time school or if you're doing virtual school. Something that can be good to kind of augment all of that is nature documentaries on Netflix or Amazon Prime, or there's even some on YouTube. But something like that where they can use a screen, but they're actually learning something. With my son, he's 4 and he likes things like Daniel Tiger and those kid shows like that. And I'm okay with that up to a point, but it's still not ideal. But he really likes like Planet Earth or Blue Planet, things like that, where he's actually learning something and he's interacting with nature, where he can just kind of passively watch it. It's not tested. He's not doing an activity, but he's actually taking in information.
Yeah. Recommended. Disney Plus has some good ones from National Geographic too, and Disney Nature. Those are some good ones too. My kids used to watch a lot on Netflix of the documentaries. That was before I used to work from home. The TV's in my office, so it makes it harder to do. But my son loved Monkey Thieves, which was a show about a gang of monkeys living in this city in India, which is just hysterical. It
is funny though. My son is very particular. He will not watch anything that does not have David Attenborough. He's very specific about that. Yeah,
it's that voice.
Yeah. He's got good taste. Good taste. Excellent.
It's great. My 3-year-old is always like, "Daddy,
yeah.
whale sharks. Let's watch whale sharks. And so, I'm always like trying to find more videos that I haven't watched of whale sharks at this point.
I remember, when my older son was young, the only thing that would settle him down when he was upset was fire engines. I want to watch videos of fire engines, see pictures of fire engines. I would spend like nights on Flickr with the hashtag, the tag of fire engine, just paging through them to just keep him quiet and calm. But the things you do, the things you do. All right, so my pick is interesting. So we have had some interesting tech-related adjacent picks. My pick is related to the fact that I got a new laptop, and if you have a laptop and you're kind of a geek like me, you need stickers. You got to put stickers on it. And so, and I do the typical geek, like I have a TARDIS and I have Star Trek and that sort of stuff, but I'm Catholic too. So I need some Catholic stickers. And so I'm going to recommend, if you need some Catholic stickers, vinyl stickers, those are the best kind to get for like a laptop cover. If you need Catholic vinyl stickers, check out Cassie P's Designs. I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's Cassie, CACSSIE, P's, PEASE, designs.com. And she does like these great Catholic stickers that are both traditional in the sense of the content, but the style is very modern. And I hold one up for the guys here to see. This is Saint Therese, and I've got this great Pier Giorgio Frassati where he's climbing the mountain, and it's cut out, so it's in the corner of my laptop cover. The Sacred Heart ones, so really great designs, and you get the whole bunch of them for not much money. Like there's like a whole pack. You get all of her stickers for like $10. And then she also does wallpapers. So if you need wallpaper for your phone or wallpaper for your desktop, she's got those for free. So check that out. I recommend Cassie P's Designs for her stickers.
That's
all right.
Awesome.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I got it. For the longest time, I was like, I would never sully my computer with a sticker. It's like putting a bumper sticker on my car. Now I'm like, oh, I love stickers. I'm going to sticker everything. All right. So let's wrap things up there. I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Technology, including Frank C., Claire R., David G., Alan R., and Oliver A. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. What did you think of our discussion? If you have any questions or comments, and actually, if you have suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover in the future or things that you have questions about, let us know. You can do that by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. You'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at sqpn.com. And we would greatly appreciate it if you would take a few moments right now to go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast from and write a review there, a nice 5-star review. You don't know how important it is for podcasts to get reviews. That helps us so much, and so we really do appreciate it when you do that for us. And of course, if you share the podcast with your friends, if you think they will find some value in it, we greatly appreciate that. Until next time, Thomas Sanjurjo, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Technology.
It's been great.
Jack Baruzzini, thank you as well.
Thanks, Tom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.